Today we are looking at God's message to the movie Crash. Who's watched or seen the film before? Did the homework this week? Gotta do the church homework. I've watched it for the 5th time and still find myself being moved deeply by the power of some of the scenes in that parable. It unearths me and disturbs me and wakes me up. Paul Haggis, Paul the producer, director, said in an interview on the video, "Nobody leaves this movie unscathed." Crash is all about relational brokenness, and a big part of that brokenness focuses on the theme of racism, but it's not just a film about racism. As I've watched it a few times now, I see that it shows the brokenness at ever increasing and deeper levels in all kinds of circumstances, in almost every character in that film, deep flaws. There's racism between a white gun store owner toward a Persian man, and then that same Persian man to an Hispanic locksmith. A corrupt white cop feels it towards a black woman, and that same black woman feels it towards that same white cop. A rich person feels it toward a poor person, and a poor person toward the rich. A man toward a woman, and a woman toward a man. A mother toward her son, and a son toward his mother. People towards their very selves, showing all kinds of signs of brokenness. Character after character after character in the movie Crash, affirming and helping us realize, through their realizing, how utterly flawed and broken humanity is. It just goes on and on and on in the movie. Someone before said, I haven't watched it because I'm worried I'm really sensitive about films that go, don't watch Crash, because it goes on and on. Corruption at a political level, systemic problems like healthcare, justice, drugs, depression. It has everything in it. And when you watch the film, you don't just see it in them, the characters in the film. The power of Crash, and the reason it won an Academy Award, is because it shows the brokenness and the depravity in you and me. Crash makes us see it in ourselves. Brilliantly turns the light from the characters onto us. And in many cases, if you really tracked with the film, busts us. That scene where those 2 young black guys at the very beginning of the film were walking through this well-lit, safe neighborhood and going on and on about racism and how bad things are for black people and the way white people treat them in their particular city, and they're going on, and as a viewer, you're tracking with them and going, you're right, that's wrong, and that's the way it is down in the States or wherever you're living, and racism is rampant, and all this indignation rises up in you, and a moment it's risen up in you, they pull out 2 guns and they carjack somebody's car and totally blow everything that you were feeling about who they were and the sentiments that they were articulating out of the water. And then with the stolen car, they drive down a street and they hit a poor Korean man coming out of a working man's van. An innocent person gets hit by them and run over and almost killed. And your heart is broken for this Korean man until you find out later in the film that he's trading Thai human slaves, people from Thailand. That van was filled with men, women, and children. And he was a slave trader. And your perceptions and what you think is right and wrong and who you are and what you think you know about people are being broken down. The Sandra Bullock character in the film, she's the one who was in the car that got mugged and had their car stolen, so she was obviously shaken, and then she's home and they're getting their locks changed on their house by a Hispanic locksmith who she's convinced is a gangbanger because of his tattoos. And she starts yelling to her husband about getting that guy out of the house and getting a new locksmith in within earshot of this poor innocent man, probably one of the only really good characters in the film. And he hears her going on about what she thinks he is, And then the camera turns to her, and she realizes as he drops off the keys that he heard everything she said. And with her, we're busted. Because we do that. Another way it unsettles us, the horrible humiliation of that scene where that black couple was pulled over by that sinister white cop, Matt Dillon, and he abuses her. And we feel the deep shame, the anger of being victimized. And for me, one of the biggest busts came through another character, a good cop named Tommy. First, Tommy is in the squad car with that bad white cop, and we share his incredulity at how rotten that other police officer is. And then after he dumps his partner, and his partner corners him in the police parking lot and says, "You think you know who you are? You have no idea, i.e., you're going to become just like me." And with Tommy, when we see that scene, we're all going, "No way, we're never going to become like you, buddy." And then later on, in a later scene, Tommy's the white cop who shows up on a scene where there's a black man who's exploding in front of the police and risking his own life and about to be shot, and he gets out of his squad car and stands between that victim, that man, that black man, and those angry police, and he defuses the situation and saves that man's life. And with him, we feel this righteous sense of goodness. And then a few scenes later, we drive with him down the road. As a good Samaritan, he picks up a young black kid and thinks that the young black kid, when he's going into his pocket, as they start to get into an argument, is going for a gun, but is instead going for a little statue of St. Christopher. And Tommy pulls out a gun and kills the guy in his own car. We see that scene as we're driving with him, and we die with him. We're all guilty. We're all deeply broken. I wrote an article in a magazine about this film, and the editors, when they had an online discussion thing, chat room about it, said, "Come on, isn't this article a bit much? Are we really all that bad?" That was the opening question. I think God put crash into our lives in order to convict us of the fact that humanity is totally depraved. To put a whole bunch of us in this place where we have no room. We're between a rock and a hard place, and we have no squirming room to get out or away from that light that convicts us of who we really are. The Apostle Paul, not Paul Haggis, once wrote brutal words about the state of who human beings are. He wrote what Crash is preaching. And this verse, this is the first time I watched the film in a theater, this verse runs through my head several times as this film runs through my head. There's nobody living right, Paul writes, not even one. Nobody who knows the score, nobody alert for God, nobody. They've all taken the wrong turn. They've all wandered down blind alleys. No one's living right. I can't find a single one. Their throats are gaping graves, their tongues slick as mudslides. Every word they speak is tinged with poison. They open their mouths and pollute the air. They race for the honor of Sinner of the Year, litter the land with heartbreak and ruin. Don't know the first thing about living with others. They never give God the time of day. What a mess our world is. And it's in part, in huge part, as messed as it is, because we're a part of it. Human beings. You. Me.